Not long ago, we had a huge report that Warner Brothers is looking to sell their gaming division off in order to help the company avoid possible lawsuits from various debt investors, which is coming from Insider Gaming, which also says that David Zaslav has been advised to sell off the gaming division by other Warner Brothers executives. However, he still sees the gaming division as very strategic, and there's still a lot of money left on the table with that division. Now, we also got these rumors back in 2020 as they seemed like Warner Brothers wanted to sell back then, but I think at that time they did have quite a few games in development, with the biggest one being Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. But now that that's come out and that's lost $200 million in revenue for Warner Brothers, which is a massive hit, and was by one of their best developers in-house, Rocksteady Studios, I think this could be the time where David Zaslav does maybe change his mind, and maybe we'll listen to his executives and sell off the gaming's division, and from that maybe we can finally be getting a lot more games from the Game of Thrones universe, as we know that HBO and Warner Brothers is really trying to capitalize on the Game of Thrones universe with spin-offs with House of Dragon and Knights of the Seven Kingdoms, and there's even more spin-offs in the works. So the expansion of the Game of Thrones universe is currently being done with the television side, and there's still a book and books coming out from George R.R. Martin. It's crazy, since 2010 when Game of Thrones started, we haven't really got any big budget AAA Game of Thrones game that are mainline, as a lot of people would love to be immersed in the Game of Thrones universe. And it was even said that Bethesda were offered to make a Game of Thrones game before they settled on Skyrim. So Skyrim could have actually been a Game of Thrones open world, which still would have been the huge game that it is today, just with the Game of Thrones name. So with no rumors or updates or leaks on any Game of Thrones AAA big budget games coming out of Warner Brothers, and seeing how well other open world games like Hogwarts Legacy and the Shadow of War series did for Warner Brothers with their Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter franchises, it's crazy that Warner Brothers hasn't capitalized on their Game of Thrones franchise within the gaming base. Now, there are mobile games in development, one particularly by Nexon, which will be a Game of Thrones mobile MMO, but I'm more talking so about a AAA PlayStation 5 Xbox Series PC title that would be a lot more mainstream. But for Warner Brothers to sell off their gaming division and start to license the right of their big IPs and franchises, I think without a doubt there would be loads, 100 of developers ready to tackle the Game of Thrones IP and make a lot of games in different genres within the Game of Thrones universe. I could already see a Shadow of War Nemesis system-based Game of Thrones open world title that would just get a lot of people hyped up and highly anticipate that game, as that would do big numbers just upon its announcement. But then I could also see a much more linear style game. I could also see them doing a Baldur's Gate style game. I mean, the possibilities are huge with the Game of Thrones IP. I personally absolutely love this, and I've always wanted to have an open world, something where I could get really immersed in and have that same quality story on the level of Witcher 3, which was also heavily political with the different factions and the different kingdoms. You could definitely have that world and have that type of game with the fantasy elements like The Witcher 3, but within the Game of Thrones universe. And this is why, if Warner Brothers games does sell, it would also be great for a lot of these studios like Rocksteady and TT Game and Warner Brothers Montreal, New York, Boston to be freed up, and maybe even Rocksteady to go independent or bought by someone like an Xbox who were previously interested in buying Warner Brothers games back in 2020. We see this licensing model be a huge deal with Disney and them licensing out the rights for Star Wars and Marvel, and just seeing how many different types of games and different style of games for Marvel that is upcoming, and also Star Wars. For example, with Star Wars, there's also a Total War style game coming out by the Total War developers, which just sounds incredible. And I could even see that with a Lord of the Rings and a Game of Thrones. I could see that with a lot of Warner Brothers IP. And I think if this deal would be done and they were off to sell their gaming division and they would start licensing their IPs, I think that these IPs and franchises would get gained for the next generation of consoles, being the next Xbox and PlayStation 6 era, where now we would get a whole load of Warner Brother franchise games from different developers made for the PlayStation 6 and new Xbox era from a various of different gaming genres, with of course the new console ability and their new features and their new power set. And I personally think that this would be one of the best case scenarios for Warner Brothers, as they no longer have to chase the live service service style game. They could make money by licensing the rights and getting a small percentage of the sales or whatever they decide to get from these games, and free up their own developers and let other developers that are passionate about their franchises and projects, because you know that there are millions and millions of fans of the Game of Thrones series, and you know a lot of them are going to be game developers who want to tackle the IP, who want to tackle their own story set in that universe and make these huge passion projects. And I'm sure we'll see a lot more AAA games within this, and not only for Game of Thrones but the Matrix universe and the DC universe and Harry Potter, which I've also talked about in my previous Warner Brother franchise video, which I'll leave in the description pin comment section below. But it all depends if David Zaslav does decide to sell off the games division, and it seems like this moment in time, even though David Zaslav has said before that he wants to keep the games division because he does see market potential, he does see the money making potential of the gaming's division. I think with the $200 million revenue loss with Suicide Kill the Justice League, this is likely going to be the biggest factor in David Zaslav giving the green light to sell the gaming division. And hopefully if that does happen, they don't get into an exclusivity lock with anyone like how Disney and EA got into an exclusivity rights deal for games only with the Star Wars, and rather for them to do how the approach is now with Star Wars and Marvel, and is hearing different pitches from different developers and giving out the license. As if we look at Black Panther and Captain America, Skydance developers are making a World War II Captain America and Black Panther game. EA has also got a Black Panther open world game in development right now, and back in 2020 we got the Marvel's Avengers game which featured Captain America and Black Panther, and now in December we're also getting Marvel Rivals, which has a whole host of different superheroes with Captain America and Black Panther being included. So what I'm trying to say is that there's no exclusivity lock with these characters. If developers have good ideas, they get their projects greenlit, they get the license, and they go out and make the best game they possibly can. And this would just be great news for the Game of Thrones franchise, and to have a lot of projects set within the Game of Thrones universe for our PlayStation 5, our PlayStation 6s, and hopefully many more down the line. Let me know, what projects do you want to see set in the Game of Thrones universe? I would love to have a Skyrim style game, a Bethesda type studio type game, or of course a Witcher CD Projekt Red style open world game set in the Game of Thrones universe. So guys, go ahead and check out the Matrix videos, which we talked about what this would mean for the Matrix franchise, which has also been dormant in gaming for a lot of years now. So I'll leave those videos in the description, pin comment section below. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like and share this with your friends, and I hope to see you on my next videos. Take care, guys.
For my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces, hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.